Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Wonderless Wealth Show. Today, I have my dear friend Diya. She owns 4 hotels and over 30 short-term rentals. She's literally a former engineer, lawyer, and fashion stylist who's combined literally all of her experiences into hospitality and investing today. And as we love on the show, she travels a ton and helps high-income earners find financial independence through real estate investing and traveling the world. So welcome to the show, Diya.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I know we've already touched on it a little bit, but before all of the real estate investing and all of that, who was Diya?
I came here to the US when I was 8 years old from China. And, my parents have always told me to just study hard, get good grades, go to get a graduate degree in some sort of sciences. And so that was my trajectory for a long time. But, when I was in college, I decided that natural science and grad school was just not for me. And so first I pivoted to add a chemical engineering degree. And then I decided to go to law school and became a litigation attorney for 5 years. And then finally, I became a real estate investor. And so there's been a lot of pivots along the way.
No, I love that. But I think it's also just showing people, I think sometimes we get so married to this identity that we've created for ourselves, right? Like I remember before I was an engineer, and at first it was almost hard to leave engineering because I'd spent all of this time becoming an engineer. And who was I once I quit that and went full in on real estate investing? But the beauty of life is you can reinvent yourself. You can pivot. You can change whatever you want to do at any point in time. And you are literally a living example of that.
Yeah, I think it's also whatever society or your parents or your family has set up for you. And so everyone in my family has always been scientists or doctors. And so that's what essentially was expected of me. So even becoming an engineer or becoming a lawyer, that was already stepping outside the box. So so you should have seen my parents' face when I told them I was going to become a real estate investor instead.
Me too. I know. I didn't speak to my parents for a month when I first told them because we just got so mad at each other. But now it's crazy because they're like, "Oh, we're so all in," and they even invested in a property with me. So it's like, you guys will figure it out. It's gonna be okay.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so how did you get started investing in real estate?
So I really kind of bumbled around in terms of what I wanted to do. At the time, I was working in New York City and living in New York City, and I looked around and I quickly realized that I didn't want to just do the big law attorney for the rest of my life. I didn't want to make partner. So I had a little bit of an identity crisis just because I had pivoted so many times. So I was a biochemistry major, chemical engineering major, and then I dabble as a fashion stylist, and then I went to law school. So there's so many things, right? So now I'm like, oh, wait, I don't really want to be a lawyer anymore. What do I want to do? And I looked around and found the financial independence movement. And essentially, the two paths to financial freedom is either invest in real estate or invest in stocks. And just real estate just felt like something that was more tangible, and that's something that seemed more interesting to me at the time. And so I didn't really know anyone in real estate investing when I started, but I just started telling everyone that I was going to move back to Austin and start investing in real estate.
I love that. No clue what I'm really doing, but I'm going to do this thing. Okay, let's go.
For sure.
I love that. So what was your first property, and how did you get started with that?
So I knew that I just wanted to buy something as soon as I got back to Austin because the real estate prices were going up in Austin at the time. So within a month of moving back to Austin, Texas, I had closed on my first property, which was just, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single family house as my primary residence. And I started experimenting with just renting out the rooms to and quickly realized that I do not jive with that lifestyle. I started renting out the rooms on Airbnb to house hack a little bit and realized that I just like vacation rentals or short-term rentals a lot better than the traditional long-term rental method.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel that. That's like when I was first getting started investing in real estate. I was listening to different podcasts like Bigger Pockets and things like that. And I knew I wanted to house hack. But long-term rentals, for whatever reason, just was not getting me excited. And I know, especially since you were in fashion before, like part of something that I love so much is design and creating beautiful spaces and really diving into that. So it's kind of the fun part of short-term rentals,
Yeah, and I think something that needs to be said was that, when I started, I didn't really have a lot of people that were in short-term rental space, or at least I didn't know of that many people in short-term rental space because it wasn't this mainstream thing yet. And so what I did know that is that I didn't have a lot of real estate investing experience, but I did have style and I did have much better design sense. And most of these real estate investors out there that was going to meetups and I was meeting, and I did know technology and digital marketing just from my fashion days a lot more than a lot of these other people that I was meeting. And so in my mind, that it was a natural solution just because I had something that was unique that I could bring to the table that was a lot that set me apart from all these real estate investors with 20 plus years of experience. And so yeah, a lot of people thought it was a really stupid idea to buy short-term rentals, but that's how I got started.
I love that. I love that. And so, you got started in the residential space with either single family homes and stuff like that, doing the short-term rentals. But I feel like you were one of the first people, especially within our like current real estate space, that moved into hotels. And now you have an even more unique strategy towards your hotels. Can you kind of talk about the progression from those single family homes, short-term rentals into the hotel space?
Yeah. So when short-term rentals became widely known as a really cool investing space, I knew that there was going to be a lot more competition in the short-term rental space. So I wanted to see what was next, what was coming down the road as the next it product. And so I started looking to hotels just in my mind because I thought, hey, it's just a bigger Airbnb or a bigger short-term rental. But that's kind of how I got started. And the more I looked into it, the more it made sense to me, just because a large part of people's headaches when they're selling their vacation rentals is that they're not able to get the valuation that they want for their property, because it doesn't matter if it's making $100,000 or $200,000 and the neighbor's house is making $0 or just $10,000 as a long-term rental. It's still going to be evaluated the same when it's an Airbnb or vacation rental or short-term rental. When it is a hotel, because it's making more money, it's going to be evaluated at a lot higher valuation than your neighbor's hotel. So that was one of the main things that stuck out to me. The other reason that I started looking more at hotels is because of all the regulations that were becoming enacted in really popular short-term rental towns. And so I thought, hey, if I turn a hotel into more of a short-term rental or Airbnb type hotel, then of course I'm going to be one of the few competitions that is going to be listed on these traditional short-term rental online travel agencies or OTAs. And I will basically crush it in this space. So that's really why I started looking to hotels. But then nowadays, I really have pivoted into even larger deals than what I originally started with, which our first few hotels, they were a little bit smaller. So our smallest is only 13 units, but our largest one is now 76 units.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to get stuff that's 60, 70 doors and up at this point. And we are also looking to convert that franchise hotels into independent hotels in order to turn them into boutique properties. That's where we found our niche today.
No, I love that. And there's so few, like, I would say most people are scared of that, right? Like, especially independent real estate investors who don't work for really large corporations or anything like that. Like, I think about for myself, like, I want to get into the boutique hostel space more so, and ideally internationally, and just run with that. We'll see how it goes. But like, I don't want anything more than like 15 units because it just terrifies me. So I love that you just are diving deep, because I think the part of the thing about real estate investing is kind of finding that niche, finding that area where you can crush it and you have the competitive advantage over everyone else. So what are some challenges that you're seeing with buying these larger hotels in comparison to the smaller hotels?
So one of the things I want to say is that a lot of people do find larger hotels intimidating just because it is, and they're correct, it is a very different asset class than your short-term rental. It's not, but even just a 13-unit hotel is still going to be very different than a short-term rental in so many different ways, in terms of city compliance, in terms of permitting, in terms of just guest interactions, because now there's 13 sets of potential guests on site that could be interacting with each other. So there's a lot of things that are already different with a 13-unit hotel or 13-key hotel. But one of the things that make it easier to buy a larger hotel is that, especially if you're looking overseas or you're looking at a destination that you're not close to, you have to hire someone full-time on site, and you can't really support that if you're buying a 13 or 15 unit hotel in terms of the income. But your income for a 76 unit hotel is likely going to afford you the opportunity to have full-time employees. So now you have full-time not surveillance, but it's full-time eyeballs on the property. So people can now, we have full-time housekeeping, we have full-time general manager, assistant GM. And so all those things are really helpful to easier for us to run something remotely, versus I also consult for hoteliers and hotel developers that are ranging from 10 units up to 500 key hotels. And something that I've noticed for the smaller hotel developers is that they're struggling to make the income work to where it's supposed staff full time, especially in traditional vacation markets that are outside the US. It's just really, really hard to hire the right staff and pay enough and also still make a profit.
That is so fair and such a good point. And, it's like at every different stage and level, there are going to be different problems and issues. And I feel like it honestly becomes like, how do you navigate those, and getting yourself around people, like finding people like you to coach you through that, right? Because you've seen where the issues are. You can kind of be like, hey, don't do this, do that. Like, this isn't working, this is working. So I think that is like just, and even at any stage that you're at, finding some sort of a coach or a mentor or just someone that you can bounce ideas off of with,
Yeah, and absolutely. And so what we do is that not only do we have our own hotels, but we also consult for other people. So like I mentioned, I worked in-house as legal counsel essentially for hoteliers who had up to 500 keys. And so not only have we seen all these issues at the 70 to 100 key level, which is what we own right now, but we have seen these issues and preview these issues that may be coming down the road at the 250 to 500 key hotel level, right? So that's something that, bigger problems, bigger dollar signs equal bigger problems. And so having that guidance along the way is really helpful.
Totally. So I love too that you kind of took your law degree and used that as an advantage, right? Because I think a lot of the times, especially when either you're frustrated with your career, you're like, I'm going to quit and go do something else and I'm out, But you really were able to take that degree and put it to good use. So I guess, how have you been able to do that? And how have you really been able to marry that with all of your real estate?
So with my primary job is still real estate investing or developing hotels or vacation rentals. But what I've found that is a lot of real estate investors, especially if they're really busy developers and whether it's in commercial real estate or residential real estate, they don't have a lot of time to hire the right attorneys. And so they often use the wrong law firms for different things. So it might be an Arkansas issue, right? And then they are using their Texas attorney for it. And it's like, well, and it might be something totally unrelated to their area of expertise. And so my law degree has been really helpful to help certain people figure out what kind of help they need or what kind of legal issues they need. And we help them outsource that to something, a good law firm rather than just the first law firm that they interview. And so that process does take some time and does take some sort of legal understanding. And then also law firms, on the other hand, they are very narrow. They have their blinders on sometimes, and that's because they're trying to be cost efficient when their clients come to them with a problem. So if you're saying you have this problem, you didn't say that you have this other problem, they may never look at it that way, and they will never look at this problem. But you, the client, you may not know that you have this problem over here just because you don't have a legal background. And so that's something else that we've also helped people with, is just holistically your business approach. Give me your entire like thesis and business plan, and let's figure out where your weaknesses are. And now we can figure out which law firms that might be the best fit, and talking to those law firms. So that's kind of what helps certain hotel developers and real estate developers do.
Love that. And so earlier you talked a little bit about how you kind of went through an identity crisis, right? Because you shifted around so much. So how did you navigate that? Because I think a lot of people really struggle with that. And I think hearing how other people have navigated with that just really helps put things into perspective.
Well, it was definitely not a smooth process. I had probably 2 or 3 different identity crises. So the first one was when I was in college, and I realized that I didn't want to be a research scientist like my parents wanted me to. And that was huge, just because ever since I was a little kid, all my parents ever did was buy me science books. And so it was never a question in my mind that I was going to become a research scientist at one of the Ivy League schools. It was more of what field of science I was going to select as my go-to science degree. And so when I first realized that I didn't want to do research sciences and I want to do something else instead, that was huge. And trying to do law was this really scary thing. When I went from being a lawyer to wanting to do something else, I felt the same level of stress. There's just like a lot of uncertainty and maybe some crying. And so really it wasn't a perfect process. It wasn't like I just had this clearly laid out plan. But one of the things I did really quickly when I found that financial independence movement was to pay off my law school loans.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a lot of it, but I just immediately started living like I was a law student again, and I paid as much of it off as fast as possible. And then the second thing I knew is that, if I'm going to start real estate investing, let's just buy a house and see how it goes. Now, that's probably not the best strategy, but it is one of the lower risk strategies to get started. It's just hey, you need a place to live in anyway, so why not make that your first investment property? Not everyone has that benefit if they're living in a super high cost living area, but in Austin, Texas, I was able to make it work. And so that's what I ended up doing, just taking it one step at a time. I didn't have this elaborate plan to buy hotels one day. I didn't have, I didn't really know how to change the AC filter when I started. No, I rented my whole life. I didn't know this was a thing. So I didn't know how to do this. And so I did hire the wrong contractors. I bought a house in the flood zone. I used a realtor that wasn't an investor friendly agent. They just mostly help people buy their first house. And so I just made a lot of different mistakes along the way for my first few deals before I now have a much better system.
Okay, fam, if you have been feeling stuck in your corporate job or in your career and you've been looking to level up, this is going to be for you. Now, this has been a long time coming, but I am finally hosting the inaugural Wanderlust Wealth Retreat here in Denver, Colorado, March 6th through March 9th. Now, this is for the person who either hasn't gotten started investing in real estate, or maybe they've bought 1, maybe 2 properties and are starting to doubt themselves. Maybe they're thinking, can I actually live life on my own terms? Can I really stick it to the man and go travel and spend more time with the people that I love instead of going into a gray office every day? If any of those sound like you have to be at this retreat. Now, it's actually going to be at my Airbnb here in Denver Art House. And we have both an all-inclusive ticket as well as a local Denver ticket. So the all-inclusive ticket is going to be food, accommodation, all of that included, whereas the local Denver one, the food and accommodation won't be included, but you'll be able to come and attend all of the core events. So if you're ready to level up your life and really, really make 2025 your year, make 2026 the year that everything freaking changes for you, you must come. Because here's the thing, you don't have to go at this real estate investing entrepreneurship thing all alone. The relationships that you make in in-person events are literally unparalleled. They've changed my life and so many other folks around me, and I know it's going to change yours too. Now, tickets are going fast, so make sure you get signed up ASAP. Check the link in the show notes for more details and to go get signed up, or DM me the word retreat on Instagram. That way we can get you signed up and ready to freaking go. Now, it is going to be a really small, intimate group. So like I said, tickets are actually going to go really, really fast, and they've already started going really fast. So get signed up as soon as you possibly can, and I will see you there. Totally. Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's just one step in front of the other, right? And I think people get so bogged down with, well, what does my future look like? And it's like, you don't even know what the possibilities out there are yet. So try not to plan too far in advance that you don't even open yourself up to what the possibilities could be.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely didn't know that I was even going to specialize in short-term rentals and then later on in hotel investing. Really, I just knew that, hey, I have to pay off my student loans because otherwise I can't quit my job. And hey, I need to make some income. And so the first way to do that is to save up some money so that I can invest in more properties. And the best way to do that is to rent out some rooms in my house. It wasn't this well thought out thing, right? So I think too many people end up getting bogged down in one, hey, I spent all this many years in studying for whatever degree that I have now. I can't quit now. And then two, just like, oh my gosh, I don't have a plan. But, a lot of people select their college major without a huge plan, right? And then a lot of people end up spending thousands or tens of thousands of dollars.
Hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of dollars on their education without a clear plan. So don't be afraid to invest in your financial freedom in the same way that you invest in your education.
Yeah. And I also love what you said in terms of when you discovered the FIRE movement and like financial independence, retiring early, you automatically was like, okay, I'm set. I am paying off my debt. Because I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, you hear a lot of people saying, you can buy properties with no money down, all this stuff. And like, yes, you absolutely can. However, you still need money. Like, you still need some money in the bank account or somewhere in case anything happens. Real estate comes with fees and costs. So like, the first thing you need to do is get your finances in check. Because if you don't even know how to like manage your own personal finances, what makes you like then taking on a multi-$100,000 asset, sometimes $1 million asset, with not having your own finances in check, like it just doesn't make sense. So I love how you like made sure to focus on like getting your finances in check as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's a lot of social media glamour around real estate investing, and a lot of people get swept up in all the sexiness and they want to jump straight into the highest ROI thing or return on investment thing that they see, or the sexiest thing that they can find, whatever it is, whether it's hotel investing, whether wholesaling, whether it's, creative financing. But really, first, let's start to crawl, then walk, then run, and start understanding where real estate investing is and start learning just real estate investing 101. And I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble, is that they jump really quickly to specialize in this one thing, become the expert in this one thing. But hey, figure out personal finances, then figure out general real estate investing first, and then figure out a niche that you can specialize in.
Exactly. I love it. And so you're also a big traveler like I am. So, when people think of hoteliers and people who own hotels, they're not generally thinking they have enough freedom to go travel the world and do all of this stuff. So how are you doing it?
So definitely takes a lot of initial sacrifices. So when we first bought our hotel, the unglamorous part behind the scenes that you don't see on social media is that we lived in this hotel for a hotel room for a long time before we were able to stabilize our very first hotel. So not so glamorous, but we made it work. The other thing is to have really, really good business partners. So if you're the person that is finding more deals, your role is to raise money, find more deals, and talk to more talented local operators and realtors and wholesalers, then your job by definition is probably going to have to travel to a lot of different destinations. And that's really my role. So my two business partners, they are usually a lot more stay put. And so they're the ones that are handling the day-to-day operation. So you absolutely need to find other people who complement you. And so if your personality is to meet a lot of people, and travel to a lot of places, you can assign yourself that role and make it work in hotel investing or real estate investing. But now you had to find business partners that will complement those skills. So my business partners, they don't want to be on camera. They don't want to be looking at different deals. They don't want to be in a billion different places. And so they will rather be in one place and, tinker on the daily operations. And that's why we work really well together.
I love that. And I think a lot of the time with real estate investing, people think they have to go at it alone, right? It's like, well, I got to find independence for myself. But there's so much power that comes with doing it with someone. And it could be a partner, it could be a friend, it could be someone you meet at a real estate meetup. I would definitely say vet your partners beforehand for sure. And sometimes it's trial and error. But there's so much beauty that comes to doing it with a team,
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody is going to be good at every single role especially when you scale. There's two things is one, you have to find the right business partners. And then secondly, you have to find the right teams around you to support you and share your vision. So when you find those two things, you have to treat them really well and, take a lot of, when you find those two things, you definitely have to make sure that you treat everyone really well, treat your teams, take them out to dinner, etc. So it's not just your business partners, but also my renovation team, my design team, my hotel staff that are just really amazing and that make it possible for me to travel.
Totally. And so when people think of hotels, a lot of people think that's a lot of money, right? So where are you getting all of this money from? How are you buying these multi-million-dollar hotels?
Well, first thing first is that sometimes people are buying $1 to $2 million short-term rentals or Airbnbs at this point, and those are prices that you can buy a hotel at. Yeah. So if you have $1 or $2 million purchases that you're currently making on the residential side, then you absolutely have enough money to invest in your first hotel deal. So our smallest hotel, we only put 15% down and we got it under contract at, I think, $370K.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. Yes. So that's our 13 unit hotel. Now we had to do a lot of work to it. We had to put over $500,000 of renovation into it just because it was severely damaged by natural disasters. So we, of course, were all in for slightly under $1 million, but most of that renovation money was funded by the local bank. Yeah. Because they have vested interest in reviving the area around them. So they give us amazing bank terms. And so you can definitely do that if you want to do something by yourself. Most people who are listening to this podcast, if they already are seasoned real estate investors, they probably have enough funds to buy a smaller hotel like that. Now, if you're looking to buy bigger hotels, you can also raise money from other people. So that's something that, it just really depends on how much real estate investing experience you already have. Typically, you should have some sort of real estate investing experience and doing larger deals, or at least doing multiple deals before you start on raising money.
Yeah, no, that is so fair. And then there's other, strategies too, like seller financing, where the bank essentially becomes the sellers too. So I think a lot of people just get intimidated by it simply because it's called a hotel, right? And everyone's like, oh my gosh, a hotel. But you can literally find them at purchase prices at the same or less than you can a single family home or just like a regular residential home, which is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we're now buying stuff that is going to be considered a lot more expensive than your traditional residential single family house. We're looking at deals that are in the $7 to $10 million range now, but that's also because we're looking at much bigger deals. But that's because we started small first, and we were able to renovate smaller deals. We were able to buy smaller deals. So now it not only is it easier for us to get bank financing at this point for larger hotel deals, which otherwise the banks probably wouldn't lend to us on something like this if we already have 4 hotels under our belt. But also brokers take us more seriously, sellers take us more seriously, contractors take us more seriously. We have an in-house contract team already. So there's just a lot of things at this point that make sense for us to scale to bigger deals.
So fair. No, I love that. And that's the thing. For a lot of people, it's like, you just need to get your first one. Get your first one, start working on it. And then you start kind of getting your second and your third. But first, you need to just try it, see if you even like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have some people that reach out to me. They haven't bought a house yet. They want to get into hotel space. And I have to honestly tell them, like, hey, I'm happy to coach you through this. But honestly, you should first start out with residential real estate investing first to see if you even like it.
Yep.
Because just because you're real estate adjacent, let's say you're interior designer, or you're renovating properties, you're consulting for different real estate deals as a PR agent or whatever, that's still different than owning an asset yourself and understanding how to be an investor. And so I always encourage people to at least buy something else first before starting commercial real estate. Of course, you can jump to commercial real estate first. I know people who have done it, but it's so much harder than if you just start with smaller deals first.
Completely agree. Okay, so now we are going into the final 3 interview questions that I ask every single person who comes on the show. So number 1, what does your ideal perfect day look like?
My ideal perfect day probably changes depending on which day you ask me this question. So right now, my perfect day would be to wake up, get a workout in, do a few hours of work, and then being able to either go out, hang out with my friends or my family, or go on a hike, or go take a dance lesson somewhere. And it doesn't have to be here in Austin. It can be anywhere in the world. But that's kind of my ideal schedule.
Love it. And what is your mantra? That's question number 2, or something that you tell yourself all the time.
So this probably sounds weird, but it's just it's just probably go big or go home.
Yeah.
I'm overhyped a little bit at this point, but either that or just be either in a 0% or be in a 120%. Just whatever you're doing, you just have to commit to it, full stop. When we started hotel investing, I basically quit looking at short-term rentals, and I just focused on hotels for a whole year to learn all about hotel investing. And I was committed to, through thick and thin, stay at the hotel or, for 7 months while we're renovating it, and just, going through all those things. And so if I wasn't that committed, then of course I could have been easily distracted by a shiny new short-term rental deal that I could have bought at that point. And when I was starting in real estate investing, it was the same thing. I had to say no to a lot of my friends who wanted to hang out because I was working 80 hours as an attorney. The only free time I had to do real estate investing was on the weekends or on holidays. So I spent Thanksgivings alone. I spent Christmases alone just in those first 2 or 3 years so that I can set up as many short-term rentals and invest in as many deals as possible. And so whatever it is that you're doing, you just have to commit to it all in if you want it that badly.
Totally. And it's like when you're committed, it is inevitable that you're going to make it happen. Like literally so inevitable. It may not happen in the exact timeline that you wanted, but when you know that this is what you want. Like I remember when I was first paying off my credit card debt because I just discovered real estate investing and I was like, I'm getting my first property, right? But like I paid off my debt and then saved up for a property. And it was like $25,000 worth of debt and then saved up an extra $25K in 8 months. And I was like working on top of my corporate job and I was a real estate agent and running around and I was tutoring. I was like, whatever money I can get, I'm throwing it towards that, but I had to be committed. And the year before that, when I didn't know about real estate investing, there's a reason why I was just sitting on my debt. It's because I wasn't committed. I didn't really know what I was working towards. So I think it's like, I like that your mantra is to go big or go home and just like stay committed to the journey, you know?
Yeah. And you know, a lot of the real estate content out there, they're not going to show you people sleeping on a floor mattress or taking cold showers or all the things that sometimes suck about real estate investing. So you have to know that this is what you want to get through those really ugly days because to get to the other side.
Yeah.
It's not always rainbows and butterflies, that's for sure.
And life isn't all rainbows and butterflies. And I think sometimes we always think, oh, once we get there, it's going to be perfect. Like it's never always perfect, but knowing that you're working towards a lifestyle that you love and making sure to include more of that in your day-to-day, I think is so key, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, last question. What does wealth mean to you?
Wealth means to me to be able to do really fun things for my family and friends, whether it's to take a really cool vacation with everyone and, you know, pay for the lodging that we're staying at, or is to just be able to do really cool things for the people I really care about. I think that's really important. Otherwise, if you don't have some sort of goal for your financial independence journey or your wealth journey, then it could be really lonely at the top. So for me, it's really been being able to share really, really cool experiences with people I care about.
I love that. That's like one of my key philosophies is just like more time spent around the world sharing like amazing experiences with the people that I love, you know?
For sure.
Amazing. Well, Diya, what is the best way for people to reach out to you? Maybe they want to learn more about hotel investing or any other form of real estate investing. Maybe they need legal support, whatever that looks like.
The best way to reach me is through social media. So your favorite social media channel. I'm probably the most active on Facebook or Instagram. On Instagram, I am DIYAESQ. And on Facebook, you can probably find me just by searching Diya Liu.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Diya. This was fabulous. And I know this is going to fire up so many people to start looking into hotels.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to Wonderlust Wealth Show. Now, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love this episode, it would literally mean the world to me if you shared this with a friend or a family member or literally like anyone off of the street. Like right now, go ahead, share it so you don't forget, or post it on social media and make sure to tag me. I love seeing what you're listening in on and what you resonated with, and I'm just so freaking thankful for you. I'm so freaking excited for you. I love you, and don't forget, life really doesn't have to be hard.